Friends from the retailing community. I'm very glad to be here this morning, and I'm grateful for the invitation to be present at this Delhi Retail Summit 2014. I'm aware of this organization and I'm familiar with the work you do, but this is the first time I've had the opportunity to actually be part of one of your events. And I am grateful for the opportunity. It does not require me to say that the retail industry in India is looking at possibly unexpectedly huge opportunities. India is a country which is growing very fast, and despite our various problems, we are still looking at enormous income increases across the board and the opportunities for the retail sector to grow. We are also part of a highly aspirational society, and I would expect that persons such as yourselves, representing various aspects of the retail industry, will tap into this, because these are the opportunities presenting themselves for your growth. Wherever we see there is a scope for increased production, for increased manufacture, for higher quality being demanded, larger quantities being demanded, more people with higher expectations of your sector. There are just a few issues that I would like to raise, and while the event, maybe the event today, later in the afternoon, will provide you with some opportunity to discuss these a little more. The Department of Consumer Affairs is primarily concerned with two large aspects of trade in general and retail trade in particular. One is standards and the other is welfare. In fact, this really is all we do. Through the establishment of the Bureau of Indian Standards, which is India's national standards agency, we are responsible for the setting of, at present point of time, product standards. We hope to be able to move into process standards very soon. But product standards covering a not very large range of products and commodities. And this is an aspect that is also receiving some of our attention at this point of time. The Bureau of Indian Standards, while it has actually, in consultation with industry representatives and partners, framed standards for over 19,000 products, only 107 of these are actually mandatory. The gap is enormous. That we have been able to finalize what I would like to think are near global standards for over 19,000 commodities is a reflection of our capacity and the fact that in India we can do this if we want to. However, we are constrained by the law as it presently stands, and we are looking at amending the law to make it possible for a much wider range of commodities. In the first instance, we're looking at going up to at least 2,500 commodities for which standards will be mandatory. Now, I would urge that this is a move which is primarily in the interest of industry. Nobody can deny or dispute the fact that the setting and the maintaining of standards has to be at the heart of whatever we do. It cannot be our case that we can get by with lesser than absolute standards only because there is a market that does not know better. It is the responsibility of the manufacturing industry to be able to set and maintain standards that meet global levels. It is the responsibility of the industry to also educate the consuming public as to what those standards are, all of you are familiar with the work we do in the area of legal metrology and the need for the best standards to be maintained in packaging, the kind of information that is made available on packaging, the detail that is sought. All this comes with a purpose. The intention is not just to ensure the manufacturers commit themselves to a certain level of quality and a certain standard, but that the information is out there, is available for the consumer to be able to read and understand and take an informed decision before entering into any kind of transaction. So this whole area of improved standards, higher standards, covering a much larger range of products is something that is receiving our urgent attention. Some of you would be familiar with the proposed amendments themselves, which are available on the website of our department. And I would urge those of you who work closely with BIS, or those of you who have an interest in legal metrology matters, to take a look both at the proposed amendments to the BIS Act and to the amendment to the Legal Metrology Act, all of which have a significant impact on your own working and functioning. And you are very important stakeholders in this matter. It is when we amend laws, it becomes necessary to ensure that anyone who has an interest is consulted. It is necessary that anyone who could possibly be affected by the working of that law is consulted. And I regard this community, the huge retailing community in our country, as having a substantial interest in this particular area. So this is what I was saying is one of the two important areas in which we work, the whole area of standard setting. The other very important area in which we work is that of consumer welfare. And the two are intricately linked. I've always believed this, that if we have responsible, respectable standards which are closely adhered to, we would not have consumer grievances at all. Consumer grievances arise because products do not deliver what they claim to deliver. Products do not meet necessary quality standards. Or there is some kind of deficiency which should not have been there had clearly notified standards been adopted in the first instance. I mentioned earlier that only 107 standards are mandatory, but there is still nothing which prevents manufacturing industry from adopting a standard which has been formulated, even if it is not necessarily mandatory. A responsible retail industry would do that, recognizing that there is a standard available, seek to adopt that standard in the larger interest of the consuming community and the larger interest of the industry itself. Now, consumer welfare takes up a lot of our time. Now, we have a system, as some of you may be familiar, an elaborate national, state and district level consumer court system where consumers are free to take their grievances. I would like to think that consumers resort to these courts only as a matter of last resort. That in the first instance they have sought and received compensation for whatever their grievance is in direct dealing with the seller of the product that they have bought. I would urge that all of you in your respective businesses put in place a responsible level of consumer grievance redressal. It should be all that is necessary, really, that if a consumer buys a product from one of your outlets and has a problem, whatever the problem, then he comes back to the outlet where the purchase was made and resolves the problem. This is the simplest for everybody concerned. It is in no one's interest that the matter spills over into a consumer court, because that comes with all its attendant problems that go with court matters generally. Consumer courts are expected to function a little less formally and with a little less rigor than the regular civil courts, but even so, Any matter going to court means so much more time and a waste of general energies all around in order to redress a matter which in the first instance should have been solved at the point of the transaction itself. So while it is very good to see that the retail industry is booming, I think it is equally important that alongside with your vigorous advertising campaign and alongside with whatever vigorous product promotion you do, you also put in place a system where, an online system if necessary, where grievances can be immediately settled. I do not mean to suggest that this is not happening at this point of time. It certainly is happening. All of us in our own individual lives, we've had experiences where we've needed to go back to where we've bought something. It's, but it needs attention, and we need to ensure that matters do not escalate out of the control of the transaction itself. There is another area that needs attention and which I hope will receive will be discussed in the course of today's deliberations, which is this whole area of internet-based transactions and what is loosely called e-commerce. And we now see a huge range of products being sold where the buyer and the seller do not meet in any manner, and where the entire transaction is conducted online, when purchases are made using credit or debit cards or whatever. Now, the nature of the transaction has changed, but responsibilities towards maintaining quality have not changed, and responsibilities towards providing redressal if necessary have not changed. It is important to recognize that. Nothing else has changed other than the manner in which the transaction has taken place, and that has happened only as a means of ensuring greater simplicity and greater facility for the consumer and possibly also for the manufacturer. That you don't need, the manufacturer does not need overheads in setting up showrooms and such like. The consumer does not need to actually visit the market to make the purchase. Everything can be done by each person staying where they are with just an internet connection between them. But the responsibility of seller to buyer remains. And that, I think, is something we need to understand and build in. I am not saying this does not happen at this point of time. I am only saying that we need to remember that it's an essential component of whatever we do in the name of e-commerce, that in addition, side by side with facilitating the actual transfer of the product from seller to buyer, you also need to have a consumer grievance mechanism that exists alongside that. So that's as much as I would like to say to you this morning. I would once again wish to thank Mr. Rajgopalan and everybody else for your invitation to me. I wish your deliberations today all success. Thank you.